Hi, my name is Katie McNealy, and I will be presenting this poster where we examine sex differences in reward enhancement by D-Amphetamine and its interactions with nicotine. So something we know about nicotine is that it enhances the value of other environmental stimuli and rewards. So it makes other things just a little bit more reinforcing, and this phenomenon called reward enhancement can maintain nicotine consumption. And we examine this alongside D-Amphetamine, which is the active agent in Adderall and Excedrin, and we know that stimulants and nicotine have very high rates of comorbidity in the population, so they're often consumed together. And we also know that women tend to be more sensitive to some effects of stimulants and exhibit higher rates of amphetamine dependency and more severe dependency in human populations. So it's really important that we examine these effects in both males and females. So in Sprague jelly rats, we examine the effects of nicotine alongside and co-administered with D-Amphetamine on reward enhancement of a visual stimulus in male and female rats. So we use 10 male and 10 female rats, and we use conditioning chambers such as these to perform our experiments. Where you can see in figure 1, we have a chamber equipped with 2 levers, one active lever that can produce the visual stimulus reinforcer, and one active lever that produces no consequences but allows us to examine somewhat random responding. And we also have cue lights here, which are dim lights located above each lever, and a house light up here that can illuminate or de-illuminate the entire chamber. And our visual stimulus is a combination of both cue lights turning on for 5 seconds and a 1-minute offset of this house light. So essentially the animal sits in the dark for around a minute with these cue lights on for only 5 seconds. So to assess enhancement of this visual stimulus, this is a paradigm we often use in our lab. Rats receive 2 injections before each session, 1 injection of saline or 0.1 or 0.3 milligram per kilogram D-Amphetamine, and a second injection of saline or 0.4 nicotine. And this leaves us with 6 possible drug combinations where we're allowed to get a baseline of saline plus nicotine to replicate previous findings on nicotine reward enhancement. Then we get both doses of amphetamine alone and each dose of amphetamine co-administered with nicotine to assess the interaction. So these doses were assessed within subjects in a randomized order in each rat, and we use active lever pressing as the primary dependent variable to examine reward enhancement. So we see up here in figure 2, after our analysis of active lever pressing, which is on the y-axis here, and then on the x-axis we have saline and nicotine. And each of these bars represents 1 dose of amphetamine, so saline, 0.1 or 0.3 amphetamine, and this is all separated by males and females. And we see that females exhibit reward enhancement by both 0.1 amphetamine as well as 0.3 amphetamine, and that's true in both saline and nicotine conditions relative to the respective control condition. And then for males, we see that enhancement is only shown in the 0.3 amphetamine condition. Again, the same for saline and nicotine conditions. And we also find relatively additive effects when we co-administer nicotine and D-Amphetamine. So the effects of amphetamine are relatively consistent with when we administer them alone as they are when we co-administer them. So we do see some increases on top of nicotine's reward enhancement as well. And then here in figure 3, we have the same y-axis, but the data is now reorganized to have amphetamine doses on the x-axis separated by nicotine condition here. And our bars are now representing male and female. So we can examine sex differences within each of our drug conditions. And what we see is that males and females do not differ in responding in this saline condition or this nicotine alone condition. But they do differ in responding in all amphetamine conditions where females are responding more than males. So this suggests that females are far more sensitive to the reward-enhancing effects of D-Amphetamine. So just to summarize, we find that co-administered nicotine and D-Amphetamine produce additive effects on reward enhancement, and females were more sensitive to the reward-enhancing effects of D-Amphetamine, which is relatively consistent with previous literature in female rats and amphetamines. And so this provides important implications for treating comorbid nicotine amphetamine use. There should be careful consideration of existing nicotine use when you're prescribing psychostimulants, as well as some consideration of comorbidities during smoking cessation treatment.